The first honk didn't scare me. The second one did. But it was the third, long, shrill, and unmistakably directed at me, that made my stomach drop. I was only 3 minutes into my late-night drive when it started, just past 11:08 p.m., gliding down an empty 2-lane road that cut through the outskirts of my college town. The moon was a thin slice in the sky. The streetlights flickered like they'd been forgotten by the world. And behind me, far too close for comfort, a pair of headlights leaned forward like eyes that refused to blink. My parents had always warned me about driving alone at night, especially as a young Asian woman who looks too small to fight anyone off. Their words used to annoy me. I grew up with curfews, rules, and warnings that made no sense. Don't drive after dark. Don't stop near strangers. Don't take empty roads. Bad things happen to girls alone at night. I always thought it was paranoia. But tonight, the universe decided to prove them right. It started at the intersection near the old textile mill, the place no one walks after 8 p.m. because the lights barely work. I was the third car in the left lane. In front of me were 2 others, an old sedan and a beat-up SUV. Behind me, a small white car with a cracked bumper pulled up. Nothing felt strange at first. Then the SUV lurched forward, slamming lightly into the sedan. A tiny tap, like someone misjudged the brake. Both drivers got out immediately, talking loudly, gesturing with their hands. There wasn't damage. No shouting. Just confusion. I didn't feel safe getting out. It was a dark road. 2 men I didn't know. And technically, it wasn't my business. So when the light finally turned green, I signaled, eased into the right lane, and drove past. That's when the horn blasted behind me, angry, furious, targeted. The white car behind me swerved out of the lane and accelerated after me, closing the gap faster than any normal driver would. My pulse spiked. I wasn't used to this kind of fear, the animal kind that grabs the spine. I tried to rationalize. Maybe they think I caused the accident. Maybe they want me as a witness. But that didn't explain the way they pulled up so close I couldn't even see their headlights, just the shapes of 2 men in the front seats. Another honk. This one 3 sharp bursts. Then the white car swerved toward me. Not enough to hit me, just enough to make my hands jerk on the wheel. That's when I bit my lip so hard I tasted blood. They were following me. To make sure, I took a random left turn. They did too. Another right. They followed. Then a third turn, completing a full circle. Still behind me. I couldn't call my parents. They'd scream, panic, or worse, tell me to pull over. My roommate was asleep. The only person I trusted to handle something terrifying was my boyfriend. But my signal bars dropped to 1. Then 0. I held my phone up anyway, praying. Nothing. The white car honked again, one long, threatening blast that echoed across the empty neighborhood. I sped up. They sped up. I slowed down. They slammed their brakes behind me. I kept my eyes fixed ahead, refusing to look in the rearview mirror, even though I could feel their gaze like heat on the back of my neck. Then the passenger window rolled down. Slowly. Deliberately. Like they wanted me to see it. The man in the passenger seat leaned halfway out, gripping the roof with one hand to steady himself. His face was pale in the dim streetlights, eyes wide and unblinking. His mouth twisted into a grin so unnatural it made bile rise in my throat. "We're gonna catch you," he screamed, voice slicing through the night. "Faster. Don't slow down." His voice was ragged, hysterical, but what scared me most was the look he gave me, like he could already see me dying. I pressed down on the gas pedal. My heart thumped so hard I swore it shook the steering wheel. Wind roared past my car as I tore down the road, scanning desperately for any other cars, any lights, any signs of civilization. Nothing. Just darkness. Just them. The headlights behind me flickered as they hit a bump, giving me a brief glimpse of their windshield. Something was smeared across it. Not dirt. Not bugs. Something cloudy, streaked by fingers. Like someone had wiped blood away with their hand. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just forced my hands steady and tried to breathe. My parents had always said the world changes after midnight. That people become different. That the rules aren't the same. And for the first time, I believed them. 30 seconds later, my phone sparked back to life with one blinking bar of signal. I dialed my boyfriend, whispering a plea. He picked up. "Hello? Baby?" But before I could answer him, the white car rammed into the back of mine. My tires jerked. My car fishtailed. My entire body slammed forward against the seatbelt. I tasted blood again, this time from my tongue. I heard the men laughing. Not shouting. Not threatening. Laughing. I steadied the wheel, somehow. My boyfriend kept shouting my name on the phone, but all I could get out was a hoarse, "They're chasing me, help, please." He cut me off. "Drive to the police station. It's 8 minutes from you. I'll guide you." But I didn't know where I was. I had turned too many times. The streets twisted like a maze in the dark. "They're speeding up," I whispered. Then the passenger screamed again. "We're going to get your dumbass." Another hit. My car swerved. I screamed. The phone beeped twice, battery low, then it died. And for the first time, I realized something chilling. They weren't just trying to scare me. They were trying to make sure I didn't survive the night. The man I nearly hit didn't run away. He didn't even flinch. He just stood there, illuminated by my headlights, clothes soaked from the drizzle, mouth hanging slightly open like he'd forgotten how to breathe.
Before we move on, please donate me in the form of subscribe.
And though his body was turned toward me, his head was tilted upward, staring at the sky as if something were hanging above the road, something only he could see. I couldn't move. My shaking hand hovered over the gear shift, ready to throw the car into reverse, but my foot refused to lift from the brake pedal. Every instinct screamed drive, but something deeper whispered don't. Then the man lowered his head. Slowly. Too slowly. Like tendons were snapping inside his neck. When his gaze finally aligned with mine, it was wrong. Not threatening, worse. Empty. Confused. Almost pleading. He opened his mouth wider, as if to speak, and what came out wasn't a voice. It was a choked, animal-like rasp, a sound that scraped across my nerves and made panic bloom in my chest. "Nope," I whispered to myself. My survival instinct kicked in at last. I slammed the gear into reverse. Before I could move, something wet and pale slapped against my back window. I screamed. My car lurched backward and skidded slightly as my foot slipped off the pedal. Something had landed on the trunk. No, was crawling on it. I saw the shape only as a smear in the glass at first, like a face pressed so close its features distorted into a nightmare mosaic. Fingers, long ones, dragged slowly across the rear windshield, leaving thin streaks through the condensation. But those smears were too dark. They were reddish. I whipped my head forward, expecting the man to still be standing in front of the car. He wasn't. He was gone. But the shape on my trunk kept moving, inching upward, leaving sticky streaks. "Please no, 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 no." My shaking hands found the wheel. I floored the gas. The creature, or man, or whatever, slid off the trunk and tumbled into the road behind me. I didn't look back. I kept driving, heart hammering so hard it felt like the steering wheel vibrated. I only slowed when I realized my hands were slipping on the wheel. Sweat. Rain. No. Blood. Tiny droplets spattered across my fingers, the dashboard, the inside of the windshield. Not enough to be mine. But someone's. Something's. My headlights flickered. The radio crackled. Then my phone, sitting in the cup holder, lit up. Unknown caller. 0:01 a.m. I stared at it, breath shallow. The phone answered itself. A faint static hiss filled the car speakers before settling into something like breathing. Slow. Wet. Close. Then a whisper crawled through the line. You shouldn't have left. I swerved, almost sending the car off the shoulder. The voice continued, a trembling wheeze. He's still hungry. I hung up, tossed the phone onto the passenger seat like it might bite me, and pressed harder on the gas. The speedometer climbed. The rain intensified, tapping harder and harder on the roof like fingertips. I scanned the road, kept checking the mirrors, but all I saw was darkness. At least, until the next mile marker appeared, and revealed something that made my stomach cramp. A second figure stood on the shoulder. Then a third. Then 7 more, spaced perfectly evenly along the road, each one staring up at the sky just like the man I almost hit. None of them moved as I passed. Not even to blink. They only turned their heads to follow my car. Their movements weren't in sync. They were too in sync. Perfectly timed. Mechanical. I was crying without realizing it. I didn't stop. I didn't dare. Eventually the forest thinned, the sky grew a little brighter, and the emergency lights of a gas station shimmered in the distance like a miracle. I pulled in so fast I nearly clipped the corner of the building. The moment I parked, I locked the doors and curled forward, sobbing, trying to breathe. Through the steam on the windshield, the world outside blurred into streaks of neon red and white. But then, something moved. A silhouette walked slowly across the parking lot. Then another emerged from behind the dumpsters. Another stepped out from the tree line behind the station. Their heads tilted upward. Then slowly, agonizingly, they all turned their gazes toward my car. Every single one of them had long red streaks down their chests, like something had dragged itself across them. There were at least 12 figures now. And as they circled the gas station, surrounding it, something repeated in my mind. He wasn't alone on the road. He was never alone. Something had been moving between them. Something hungry. Something that hadn't finished with me. If I had known what was waiting inside the gas station, I might have stayed in the car with the figures circling outside. But at the time, all I could think was people equals safe. Light equals safe. Inside equals safe. I sprinted from the car to the entrance, fumbling with the handle so desperately I nearly ripped it off. The door swung open and I stumbled inside, drenched in rain and shaking. The station was brighter than I expected, overly bright, actually. The kind of harsh white LEDs that buzz faintly and cast long, unnatural shadows. A TV mounted in the corner played security footage of the store on a split screen, grainy black and white views of aisles, the parking lot, the forest line behind the building. But the place was empty. No cashier. No customers. Just silence so total it felt like cotton stuffed in my ears. Hello. My voice broke. Is anyone here? Something clicked behind the counter. I flinched, thinking someone had crouched down. But when I peeked over, nobody was there. Only a half-open register, a cup of cold coffee, and a phone left off the hook. The security TV flickered. In the camera feed showing the parking lot, I saw my car exactly as I left it. But the figures that had been circling the station were now standing in a loose ring. All facing the door I had just come through. Their heads still tilted up at the sky, chest streaked red, bodies unnaturally motionless. I backed away from the monitor, my breath hitching. The lights overhead flickered. Then hummed louder. The store felt colder. Something was off about the air, too thick, too still. Like the building was holding its breath. I turned toward the glass door, trying to see if the figures outside were still there. What I saw instead made my stomach twist. A handprint on the glass. Not fog. Not grease. Blood. Fresh blood. And it was sliding downward slowly, as if the hand had been dragged. I stumbled backward. Oh God! The lights buzzed violently, and one of the bulbs popped overhead, showering a few sparks onto the floor. The sudden darkness in that corner of the store made every shadow seem alive. I needed help. I needed a phone. Mine was still in the car, and I wasn't going outside, not with them out there. Then I noticed the landline behind the counter. I half ran, half crawled toward it and grabbed the receiver. No dial tone. Just static. But not normal static. This was a crackling whisper, like someone breathing into the line. Then, very faintly. Shouldn't have stopped. I threw the phone down. The security TV flickered again. All 9 of the figures on the screen jerked their heads downward in perfect unison, no longer staring at the sky but directly into the camera. Their mouths opened. All of them. Wide. Too wide. Then the feed cut out. The lights went off. Total darkness swallowed the store. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. The silence was so absolute I heard my pulse pounding behind my teeth. Then, soft steps. Inside the store. Not outside. Inside. Slow. Barefoot. Uneven. Dragging. I dropped to my knees instinctively and crawled behind a display shelf, trying to make myself small. The darkness was so thick I had to feel my way along the floor, fingers trembling against cold tile. The footsteps grew closer. Something scraped along a nearby aisle. Something that sounded like skin against metal. A wet breath shuddered out somewhere above me.
Before we move on, please donate me in the form of subscribe.
I clasped my hands over my mouth. Thump. A shelf lightly rattled. Thump. Another footstep, dragging something heavy behind it. Then, a low, broken voice whispered. Hungry. I froze. The smell hit me next, rot. Wet rot, like thick mud mixed with something long dead. It clung to the air and wrapped around my throat, making my eyes water. The footsteps stopped. I peeked around the edge of the shelf. A shape stood a few aisles away, barely a silhouette in the faint emergency light leaking through the windows. It wavered like it wasn't fully solid, like it shimmered in and out of focus. Shoulders bent, head lolling forward. Then it lifted its face. And I saw nothing where the eyes should have been. Just smooth skin, smeared with dark streaks. Its mouth hung open, wide and trembling, and inside was darkness that didn't look like a mouth at all, but a hole that seemed to pull in the faint light around it. I gasped before I could stop myself. It snapped its head toward me. I scrambled back, knocking over a whole row of snacks as I crawled backward. Bags burst, chips scattering across the floor. The creature lunged, colliding with the metal shelving so hard that bottles toppled and shattered. I ran. I didn't think. I bolted toward the back of the store. There had to be an office. Or a back exit. Or somewhere to hide. The footsteps behind me weren't human now, they were violent, jerking impacts, as if the creature didn't know how to control its body. I slammed into a door marked employees only and tumbled inside. Office. Small. Cramped. A single desk. A second security monitor. I shut the door and turned the lock. Something hit the other side immediately, hard enough to rattle the hinges. The monitor switched views on its own. Outside the office, the store aisles lit in faint grainy infrared. The faceless creature hammered the office door with its shoulder, neck twitching at impossible angles. But then. Behind it. Inside the store. More figures walked in from the parking lot. Not the faceless thing. The ones I saw on the road. Heads tilted. Streaks of red. Moving slowly but perfectly in sync. They gathered around the office door as the faceless one continued slamming it. One of them leaned forward toward the camera. Its lips moved, barely. Whispering something. I leaned closer to the monitor, trembling. Then its voice came through the office speakers, whisper soft but unmistakably clear. You should never drive alone at night. The screen flickered. And the office light died. The light went out so fast the darkness felt like a punch. A total, suffocating black, like someone had pressed their palms over my eyes. Outside the office door, the pounding stopped. That was somehow worse. Silence meant thinking. Silence meant waiting. Silence meant they were deciding what to do next. I backed into the far corner, groping blindly along the floor until my hand brushed against something under the desk, a flashlight. I grabbed it and clicked it on. Relief flooded me when it actually worked. A shaky white beam lit the office, sweeping over crumpled paperwork, a dented metal chair, and cracked linoleum. I flicked it toward the security monitor. The screen was frozen now. Every figure outside the door was shown perfectly still mid-frame, like a paused movie. But the frames were wrong. Their mouths were wider than before. Their heads tilted in angles no neck should allow. And the faceless creature? Its body was blurred, as if it had moved faster than the camera could catch. Something scratched the office door. SCRTTCH, SCRTTCH, SCRTTCH. Not knocking. Not pounding. Scratching. Slowly. Deliberately. I aimed the flashlight at the door like it could protect me. The scratching stopped. Then a voice came from the other side, whispering, but not like before. This wasn't wet and broken. This was familiar. Open the door, it said in my mother's voice. My stomach flipped. You're safe now, the voice continued, sounding warm, calm, exactly like she did when I was a child and woke from nightmares. You can come out. I knew it wasn't her. But the voice felt like hands reaching from my childhood, gentle and reassuring, coaxing me toward the doorknob. I covered my ears. Stop. Stop. The voice softened further. Sweetheart, please. You're scaring me. Silence again. Then. Bang. The door buckled inward so hard dust rained from the ceiling. Bang. A dent formed. Bang. Cracks spiked outward from the hinges. I backed farther into the corner, clutching the flashlight so tightly my fingers tingled. Then everything stopped. The flashlight flickered. And flickered again. Then died. No, 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 I smacked the flashlight. Nothing. Completely dead. The blackness swallowed me whole. And in that perfect dark, something began moving inside the room. Not outside. Inside. A soft, wet sound. Like something dragging across the floor. I held my breath so long my lungs burned. The dragging moved closer. Closer. Then stopped right in front of me. The smell hit next, a mix of wet soil and metal, thick enough to taste. Something cold brushed my knee. Then a whisper, impossible close. You didn't finish, running. My throat locked. A hand, wet, too many joints, pressed lightly against my ankle. I kicked out instinctively. The thing shrieked. Not loud. Not human. A high, shrill keening like metal tearing. I heard it scramble backward, slamming into the desk and knocking everything over. Papers scattered. A mug shattered. The sudden movement must have hit something, because the emergency backup light in the ceiling flickered to life, dim red like a dying ember. And in that barely there glow, I saw it. The faceless creature was crouched in the far corner, body twisted, limbs bent wrong like a puppet dropped on the floor. Its head jerked toward me with a sickening cracking sound. I didn't think. I grabbed the rolling chair and hurled it at the office window. Crash. The glass shattered outward. Cold air rushed in. The creature screamed again and leapt forward, but I was already climbing through the broken frame, scraping my legs and arms on the jagged edges. I fell outside onto wet dirt. And landed in the forest behind the gas station. Great. Perfect. Anywhere but here. Branches snapped behind me. I ran. Mud splashed under my shoes. Rain blurred everything. The trees leaned overhead like huge dark ribs closing in. My breath tore in and out of my chest. Behind me, I heard multiple footsteps, fast, synchronized. Not staggering like before. Not dragging. Running. The faceless one was fast, but they were faster. I pushed myself harder, ducking under branches, stumbling over roots, ignoring the burning in my lungs. I didn't care where I was going as long as it was away. Then, ahead through the trees, I saw light. Pale. Flickering. A house. A cabin. Anything was better than being torn apart in the woods. I stumbled toward it. As I got closer, the shape became clearer. A tiny wooden cabin with one lantern glowing in the window. Smoke curling from the chimney. Warm light spilling onto the clearing. A miracle. I ran up the steps and hammered on the door. Please. Please, someone, open up. I need help. The door unlocked. I shoved it open and fell inside. An older man stood there, holding a lantern. He had deep lines on his face and the kind of tired expression that said he'd lived through a lot of nights like this. He shut the door quickly and slid a metal bar across it. "You were on the road, weren't you?" he whispered. I nodded, breath heaving. He closed his eyes. "God help you," he muttered. "They've marked your scent." "What are they?" I choked out. "What do they want?" He stared at me with hollow eyes. "They're not after you," he said quietly. "But something much older than them, is." A violent thud shook the door. Then another. The lantern flickered. The man grabbed my arm. "Downstairs. Now. Don't argue."
Before we move on, please donate me in the form of subscribe.
Something scraped along the outside wall. Multiple somethings. The man pulled up a trapdoor in the floor. But before I climbed down, I heard something whisper through the cracks in the wood outside. A voice I recognized. "You left me, on the road." The old man didn't wait for me to move. He practically shoved me down the wooden steps of the trapdoor, then climbed in after me and slammed it shut. The small basement filled with darkness until he lit an oil lamp, casting a trembling orange glow over stone walls and shelves lined with jars I didn't want to look too closely at. Above us, the scraping along the cabin walls grew louder, more frantic. Something dragged its nails across the planks. Something else thudded against the door, hard enough to rattle dirt from the ceiling beams. The old man pressed his ear to the underside of the trapdoor, listening. I whispered, "What are they doing?" He raised a finger to silence me. For several seconds, all we heard were those things moving. Then, slowly, the sounds grew softer. Farther away. Fading into the trees. The man exhaled, but the tension didn't leave his face. "They're looking for you," he said. "But the cabin throws them off for a while." "What are they?" He hesitated. "The ones outside. Just husks. Echoes. They're not the real problem." My skin crawled. "If they're not the problem, what is?" He looked down at the dirt floor, voice so low it was almost swallowed by the basement walls. "The thing they follow." I didn't like his wording. "The thing that follows me." He lifted the lamp higher, illuminating scratch marks across the stone, deep gouges, some recent, some so old they'd faded into smooth depressions. "You smelled it on the road. Didn't you?" he said. "That reeking, metallic, wet stench. The unknown caller whispering, still hungry. The faceless creature in the gas station. The crawling shape on my car." My stomach twisted. "I didn't just run into something, did I?" He shook his head. "You got its attention." The floor vibrated, just a little. Like something massive shifting its weight far below the earth. I stiffened. "What was that?" I whispered. The old man's grip tightened on the lamp handle. "It's close." Another vibration, this time stronger, rattling jars on the shelves. Dirt showered from the beams. I backed up until I hit the wall. "What the hell is under us?" He swallowed hard. "Something older than the road. Older than this forest. Older than any of us. It chooses travelers. Chooses. It watches who's alone," he whispered. "Who slows down. Who looks at it too long." But I didn't. "You stopped," he cut in. "That's enough. It marks the ones who notice." I felt dizzy. "What does it want?" He stared at me with eyes that looked like he hadn't slept in years. "It wants to finish what it started." A deep, visceral sound rose from under the cabin, like wind blowing through a cavern, but thicker, vibrating the very air. The lamp flame wavered violently. Then came the knocking. Not from above. From below. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the underside of the basement floor. Knock. 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 The man's face drained of color. "No," he hissed, backing away. "No, not this soon. You didn't give it enough time." A 4th knock, this one loud enough to send cracks spidering across the dirt floor. My heart thrashed in my chest. The old man grabbed my arm. "Listen to me. When it comes through, don't speak to it. Don't look at its face. And no matter what voice it uses." He leaned close, breath trembling. "Don't answer it." The floor split open. A hand, pale, wet and impossibly long-fingered, shot up through the crack, grasping blindly at the air. Another hand followed, bracing against the earth as something massive hauled itself upward. I stumbled back, tripping over a wooden crate. The old man raised the lamp in shaking hands. "Back. Stay back." The creature paused, half emerged. Its skin looked stretched too thin over its bones, dark veins throbbing underneath. Its limbs were wrong, jointed in too many places. But its head was still hidden beneath the floor. Then it spoke. Not with its own voice. "Sweetheart." My mother's voice. Perfect. Heartbreaking. I clamped my hands over my ears. "Sweetheart, why didn't you come home?" it said softly. "Why are you hiding? Please, talk to me." The old man shouted, "Don't answer it." Cracks widened. The thing's shoulders rose. Wet soil poured into the basement like black water. Its neck stretched, too long, too thin, until its head slid into view. It wasn't a head. It was a shifting mass, like a face struggling to form underneath wax. Mouths pushed outward then sank back in. Eyes blinked open and closed in random places. And every few seconds, one of those mouths whispered a different voice. My father's voice. My childhood best friend's voice. My own voice. All calling my name. The old man rushed to a shelf and grabbed a thick iron rod. "Stay behind me." The creature hissed and lunged forward, limbs unfurling like spider legs. The man swung the iron rod with a desperate cry. The impact rang through the basement, but the creature barely reacted. If anything, it seemed annoyed. It grabbed the rod with one of its 2 long hands, and squeezed. Metal bent like tinfoil. The old man stared, horrified. Then the creature pulled him forward. I screamed. He didn't. He only managed one choked gasp as the thing wrapped a limb around his torso and lifted him off the ground. The old man's feet kicked wildly, boots scraping the floor. He looked at me, eyes wide, not with fear, but with pleading. "Run," he rasped. "Run." The creature dragged him down into the hole. His scream echoed up from the darkness, cut short by a wet, crunching sound. Silence. Then something crawled back up the hole. Something small. A hand. A human hand. The old man's hand. It skittered across the dirt floor on its own like a severed spider, fingers twitching, dragging itself toward me. That was enough. I turned and bolted up the basement steps, slamming my shoulder into the trapdoor until it burst open. I stumbled into the cabin and sprinted for the front door. I didn't look back. Not even when I heard the trapdoor creak open behind me. Not even when something enormous began climbing up after me. I didn't stop running. Not when the cabin door slammed open behind me. Not when the forest lit up with that horrible, wet, clicking sound the creature made when it moved. Not when I heard the old man's severed hand skittering behind me like a frantic insect. I ran until branches lashed my face, until the cold air tore at my lungs, until my legs trembled and went numb beneath me. The forest thinned. The road appeared like a black river cutting through the trees. My car, the one I'd abandoned at the gas station, wasn't here. Of course it wasn't. Instead, an old truck sat parked on the shoulder, its engine still running, headlights pointed into the woods. A woman in her late 60s leaned out the window, gray hair whipping in the wind. "Ichiwai," she shouted. "Get in." I didn't question it. I didn't think. I sprinted toward the truck and practically dove inside. She hit the gas before I even closed the door. The tires screeched. The truck lurched forward, fishtailing slightly on the wet asphalt before stabilizing. The woman glanced at me only once. "You look like hell," she said simply. I looked through the rear windshield. The forest was alive. Shapes moved between the trees, those husk-like figures, their heads still tilted, their mouths slack. But worse, something massive and shifting slithered beneath them, rippling the ground, bending trunks as if they were blades of grass. It was hunting. Tracking. Chasing me. "Keep driving." I screamed. "Yeah, that's the plan, kid." She didn't ask what was behind us. She didn't need to. Her knuckles were white on the wheel. "You seen it?" she asked quietly. "Yes." My voice cracked. It came through the floor. It mimics voices. Faces. It. She nodded, grim and unsurprised. "My boy saw it. Just once. When he was 21. I swallowed hard. "What happened?" She stared ahead. "He didn't live to see 22. Silence filled the truck, thick and suffocating. The road stretched ahead of us in a blurry ribbon, illuminated only by the high beams. Rain hammered the windshield so hard it sounded like gravel hitting glass. "What does it want from me?" I whispered. She hesitated. "It wants what it always wants." "Which is what?" Her jaw tightened. "A witness." That didn't make sense. A witness to what? She shook her head slowly. To itself. To its existence. To the fact that it crawled out of somewhere it shouldn't exist, and now it needs someone, just one person, to remember it the right way. "But why me?" "You were alone," she said. "And unlucky." The truck rattled as something massive hit the road behind us. I shot upright in my seat. Through the rear window, I saw lights, my own headlights, sitting abandoned in the gas station lot hours ago. Then something stepped into the beams. Something tall. Bent. wavering. Its limbs stretched like shadow and bone. Its body rippled like a reflection on disturbed water. And its face, no matter how many times I saw it, I couldn't understand it, wasn't a face at all. Mouths. Eyes. Voices. All wrong. It sprinted toward us. Faster. I screamed. The woman slammed her foot down. The engine roared. But the thing was faster. It reached the asphalt, closing the distance with jerking, inhuman strides. The woman cursed under her breath. Hold on. She jerked the wheel violently, swerving off the road. We tore through wet grass, mud splattering the doors. Trees loomed ahead. Please don't. She floored it. The truck slammed through the underbrush and burst onto another smaller road on the opposite side of the forest. The creature didn't follow. Not immediately. For a split second, everything felt calm. Silent. Then something hit the roof of the truck. Hard. The metal caved inward inches from my head. The woman screamed as the roof folded lower. Another impact followed, this time from the side, sending us swerving wildly. It was on us. Get down, she shouted, shoving me toward the floor. The creature's weight hung over the truck, its limbs clicking and scraping like bone knives against metal. Its many voices whispered through the roof, pressed against the steel like they were trying to seep in. Come back, Hack. Don't leave me. Look at me. Answer me. My mother's voice. My father's voice. My own voice. The truck swerved violently. Then. Something changed. The whispers stopped. The weight lifted. The woman slammed the brakes, panting. It's gone. Is it? I whispered, terrified to look. We sat in stunned silence. Then the radio crackled. A voice hissed through the static. Low. Wet. Hungry. You can't outrun home. The woman turned pale. No, she whispered. No, 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 it marked your house. That's what it does. It follows the memory. It follows where you slept. What does that mean? I choked out. It means, she said, voice breaking, it's already there. My blood ran cold. Our homes. I whispered. My parents? She nodded slowly. It goes after the people closest to you. Not to kill them, no. To wear them. To use them. To wait for you. I have to warn them. You can't warn them, she said. You have to get there before it does. The truck shot forward again. We drove through the night, tires skidding on gravel, engine screaming. Every mile marker felt like a countdown. Rain washed across the windshield in silver sheets as lightning cracked open the sky. My house was 3 towns away. Halfway there, I saw it. Standing at an intersection. Something tall and wrong, shifting beneath a broken streetlight. It lifted its head. And waved. Like it was expecting me. Like it had beat me home. Drive. I cried. We sped past it. It didn't chase. It didn't need to. It had already chosen. It had already moved ahead. When we finally reached my neighborhood, dawn was just beginning to gray the sky. My house sat quiet and still at the end of the street. Too still. No lights. No movement. No sound. I felt sick. Stay here, I told the woman. She grabbed my wrist. Don't go inside alone. But I had to. Every instinct screamed at me not to open the front door, but I did. Inside, the house was silent. My parents sat at the kitchen table. Perfectly still. Too still. Their heads turned toward me. Wide smiles stretched across their faces. Not warm. Not human. Too wide. Too smooth. My mother spoke first. Not with her voice. With its voice. "Sweetheart," she whispered. "Why didn't you come home?" Behind them, something shifted in the dark hallway. Something large. Something crawling. I realized then. You don't escape the thing on the road. You bring it with you. You carry it in your memory. You carry it home. And it waits. It waits for the moment you feel safe again. It waits to finish the story. The last thing I heard before everything went black was its voice, my own voice, whispering from the hallway. You should never drive alone at night.
The Silent Screams, the channel of interesting horror stories. If you are new on this channel, then don't forget to subscribe The Silent Screams and press the bell icon for interesting stories.